Welcome back, my regular viewers, listeners, and watchers. And of course, if you happen to be here for the very first time, welcome. Before I go any further, my name is Rahul George, India's premier iHypnosis coach and your personal guide. So, for those of you who've been tuning in for some time, you know that this pod, the iHypnosis coaching journeys, is a really, really special pod that has been born out of the idea of really, connecting you with people from this part of the world, from India, and more people who live outside of our country, but where we share a similar intention, and this is truly to be able to share and learn from each other's journeys as coaches, and to be inspired, because I know this from personal experience of, now I should say, more than 2 decades, more than 20 years, that if you somewhere around this journey as a coach, which means maybe you just begun, or maybe you've been doing it for a while, you know that we being coaches, it's not your everyday intention. There's something much deeper, and along this way we meet truly fantastic, amazing people. And I have a very special guest today, who in the old days, it's like saying, your guest would fly in from across the seven seas. But thanks to the power of modern technology, I have Lalita here, and there's a very special and unusual story, which I'm sure you, as a coach, you would love to hear. So, without further ado, let me first welcome in Lalita. This is your cue. You can go ahead and turn on your camera. And when it's like the Jab We Met story, like a literally like a 30-second version. I've been doing solo podcasts for now, more than 700 videos. And sometimes, people would ask me, even my mom till recently would ask, like, how many people watch it? Why are you doing this daily podcast thing? Like, even now, sometimes, especially if it's on Facebook or YouTube, there'll be like, 5 likes, 10 likes, or whatever, or views, not even likes, right? So this question used to keep coming up, like, why are you doing this? And one part of me didn't know why. The other part knew that there is something far deeper in doing this daily life, where I would spend,
Mhm.
initially my lives used to be like an hour and a half. Then they started to kind of form, and over a period of time, it became, like 5, 7, 10 minutes on one truly amazing day. Technically, it would have been daytime for you. It was one of my evenings when I was recording the pod. I don't even, if you ask me, I don't even know which day or which pod it was, because I record through Zoom, so I don't actually get to see comments live. Later, if when comments show up, I get to see them. And this is really truly the power of doing something from your heart. you know Lalita, you were actually watching one of those pods, and you reached out, we connected, we started talking, and we've had some amazing conversations since then. I've been very blessed to have been invited as a guest on your pod, and we will be talking a lot more about, one is, of course, what you do. But before
Mhm.
any of that, I just want to say, thank you for just being you, and thank you for, being here on this pod.
Well, first of all, a very good afternoon to all the listeners who are there, and all the entire clan of iHypnosis, and who have been cheering for this wonderful coach. Thank you, Rahul. It's absolutely my pleasure. If I woke up today morning with my eyes open wide, it was just looking forward to this.
Beautiful.
Needless to say, I mean, yes, you are right. I think we definitely have that bigger purpose of how people come across each other. And today, I think the media and technology has definitely enabled that, and made it more possible. And and connections happen for a purpose, is all I'd
Yeah,
see. And the more and
beautiful.
more I have experienced life, the more and more I see why people come into your life and why you travel with them, is with a purpose. And so, truly enough, it has been an absolutely wonderful journey. And while I was browsing through Facebook, There you go. And that exact tone that you just had, the hello, 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 that's what clicked me. And I'm like, who is this dude? Okay. And then I started listening to you. And then
Right.
soon enough, the rest is history and we're here. So,
True.
uh, absolutely wonderful journey so far and looking forward to yet another
Likewise.
today.
Likewise. And,
Yep.
as I said, this is another um, warm welcome to you. I know, like, it takes being present. It takes the intention and the intentionality, because if we talk about time zones, we are here now closer to 6 plus in the evening, and you're starting your morning, and something, and you said yes, I will be there, and you've literally structured your day in such a way that you're here for this. So thank you for making the time. And like I said, this is an opportunity for people to get to know you, and like you said, connections happen in the most unusual and powerful ways. So maybe we'll start there for now.
Sure.
Tell us a little bit about what you do today, and what's going to come in a moment. For people who have been watching our podcast for a while, you know that in a moment, like, literally, like, hold on to your seats, because like there's this amazing story that's just about getting ready. But before any of that, do share a little bit with us about what you do today, Anita.
Well, thank you. Thank you, Rahul, again. Um, how should I put that story about
Mm.
what I do today? Because there are there are multiple things
That's
that I
why.
do. But let's start off with saying the morning coffee is what kind of briskly woke me up today to kind of rewind and think about what I am doing today. And that was actually a good way of starting my day. So thanks to you for that, because it's important to kind of just juggle yourself and kind of just give you a reminder of what you're here for,
Yeah,
right? And so
true.
that said, personally, I am a health coach, a registered dietitian, and I must say, a big part of me is an performing artist,
Mm.
and soul food for me is dance and music.
Beautiful.
Definitely, dance is my soul mate, I should say, and music is something that kind of goes alongside with it because dance and
Mm.
music play together. So
Mm.
that said, been in Michigan in the Midwest in USA for the last 29 years. I came here being a wife and then became a mother for two young men. Did a lot in terms of doing my education. As I
Mm.
said, my background is in the food science and nutrition area. I've coached quite a few people in private practice
Nice.
and in
Nice.
the clinical setting. Uh, and a big part of me, a big chunk of my time has definitely dwelled around um, being the ambassador for performing arts and the performing arts mainly of the Indian origin, because that's where
Mm.
my forte is. And I should say that's been one of the integral parts in my life to kind of
Mm.
just ground me and put me in place in terms of identity, in terms of culture, in terms of value system, in so much more. So
Mm.
it kind of just packaged the whole thing together because nutrition and
Mm.
health kind of go hand in hand with
Yeah.
the arts. Uh, so yeah, so that's where I am. But technology has then taken a step
Mm.
forward. Not that I'm a tech gig or a tech geek, but I'm
Mm.
learning. I'm a
Yeah. Yeah.
those steps. And now I am part of a startup and very happy to initiate the startup to the next level where it's going to be a useful tool for health and healthcare. So
Nice.
I'm the chief executive officer or CEO of the company, as I am the CEO of my life. um, so it is an interesting journey. So that's what I do
Yeah.
so far, and been enjoying it and take it
Amazing.
one step at a time.
Beautiful. So I'll just pick on a few of the parts, just so at least we have sort of like a common ground. Not just you and me. I'm
Sure.
saying this is more for folks who are tuning in, especially people like us who are on the journey of somewhere realizing that life is about coaching as much as healing. And
Mm-hmm.
that is something that I myself have been noticing more and more. That, in fact, I call our breed, our tribe, healer coaches, where
Mm,
healing and coaching go hand in hand. Whether you're into
mm-hmm.
whether you're into, let's say, teaching people investment or investments, meaning how to invest in the market or have a wealthy mindset, or of course, let's say, whether it's health per se, or whether it is, relationships. But the healing and the coaching go hand in hand. So
Mm-hmm.
I'd love for you to share, uh, what was the journey like for you to, like, you've, as you said, you have this wide array of interests which you have also tapped into. So it's interest as well as business, as well as, like, literally multifaceted, as they say. And not to forget, the arts, and within that, I'm sure there's that itself is its own podcast. But for
Mm-hmm.
the purpose of this podcast, definitely share with us, like, how did that journey begin for you, where if today you say, you've done all this work and you've coached so many people in different forms, like, what's sort of like the antecedents, like, how did it happen? Were you someone who, even in school, you were like, yes, I am counseling people, and then eventually that grew into you being a coach? Or was your journey different? Because I know that will definitely inspire people to go, yeah, yeah, that relates to me too.
Well, this is a phenomenal question to kind of just
Mm.
again jog my, go into my little memory box and kind of
Mm,
think about where it all started. But
mm,
yeah, I think a big part of me, even during schooling time, even during my younger days, even though I've in the family, I'm one of the
mm,
youngest in the family.
mm,
Um, the fifth only daughter, and
mm.
four sons, or four brothers before me. I was
Wow.
kind of the tiny tot in the house, but yet so I think there was a big part of me that always wanted to kind of stand up and talk in the mic.
Mm, wow.
I guess I love the stage, so to say.
Mm,
So that identifies, because I used to always kind of stand in front of the mirror and kind of do
mm.
dialogues, and just
Nice.
that the play drama types that we used to do as
Mm,
kids.
mm,
But then I realized at a later time, when I went to high school, when you really form your personality and kind of become an
mm,
adolescent and an adult, that a big portion of me definitely it feels like they want to be the leader, or somebody who wants to lead, or somebody who
mm,
wants to take charge and take accountability of something that you do. So that kind of was an ingrained quality in me, I should say,
mm,
which perked up more and more. And maybe music and dance was that
mm,
catalyst for me, because I used to teach a lot, in the school or in programs. And then, like I said, I love talking in the mic. I love to
mm,
use the microphone.
mm,
So I think it was a natural thing, and I used to do a lot of oration and a lot of
mm,
elocution competitions. So it kind of triggered that I do have that in me, where um, I could help people, or I should guide people, or maybe even
mm,
be hand in hand with them to not. I was not at a level where I knew it all at that point, but still,
mm,
for whatever I knew, I somehow had that confidence of how I was
mm.
able to imply it to my friends, or whether it was
Nice.
friends or kith and kin, or whoever it is.
Mm,
As far as health is concerned, I think that has
mm,
always been a part of me. Maybe that's something that I always have cherished and
mm,
always treasured, because I think the health is the biggest asset. And this was from early childhood too. I used to be very
mm,
careful about my body and taking care of my body, taking care of my health. Falling sick is like, scary to me.
mm.
Not in the sense that, I would not come out of it, but I used to always look for how can I come
Right.
out of that sickness, right? So,
Mm,
very early on, in my mother also was a very integral part of telling me, I think you definitely um, you belong in that category where you can teach and communicate
mm,
about health and wellness. And this is like what, now 40 years before, when I went finished my high school, and mom
Mm.
said, I think you should do the home science program. And
Wow.
home science in those days was probably not the most sought after
Yeah.
field that people talked about. And if you spoke to somebody like home science, or what are you going to do with home
Mm.
science? Because engineers, doctors, or the lawyers were the kinds that were actually kind
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
the cliche at that time.
Mm.
Um, but it was very different, and I liked it because then it kind of also gave me some room to flourish in my dance and music. So the
Right.
college that I joined had the arts and science, and so it was a good combination.
Mm.
And sure enough, the intrigue was just more and more at that point, and
Mm.
my interest for learning about what really creates you, because you are what you eat. So
Mm.
food was definitely very, I should say, the essence of who you are for me.
Mm.
And I used to
Mm.
kind of start thinking about how food impacts your body, what should you be eating, and it just kind of just built up on me, right?
Nice.
And soon
Mm.
enough after graduation, I came to this country, which after I came here, it was completely all uh, more hands-on,
Mm.
more to say than from the textbooks. It just went
Mm.
hands-on, where I was really able to see and understand that this food would do this to you, or this food would do
Mm.
this to you. So it was more of a practical study. And I should say, Rahul, everybody goes through the journey of sickness, wellness,
Mm.
and it's a roller coaster. And
Sure.
I did go through that too.
Mm.
And maybe at the age of 38, I had
Mm.
a little shake where I
Mm.
was diagnosed with thyroid cancer, and
Wow.
I had two episodes uh, where I could have lost my voice. And sure
Mm.
enough, that person who loves the mic and who loves to
Yeah.
talk was now
Yeah.
kind of shaken up,
Right.
told, you may not have your voice for yourself.
Mm.
Um, so that kind of, just jittered me a little bit. And then I'm like, I'm going to take charge and shake me up again.
Mm.
And so that's what happened. At 38, I got cured with the thyroid cancer.
Wow.
Thank all my the blessings and grace that I have.
Mm.
I
Mm.
did come out of that, and there was a little bit of struggle with getting my voice back. But I did do the treatment for that, and
Mm.
so on. It continues. So
Mm.
that's probably how I have gotten to where I am today in terms of the coaching, in terms
Mm.
of teaching people. But I always have that personal story that really reflects
Mm.
back to say, how did I deal with what I dealt with? And how can
Mm.
I help somebody, or how can I guide somebody who is going through something similar? So
Mm.
does that kind
Beautiful.
of
Yeah.
build up?
100%.
Okay.
100%. And thank you for, sharing your story, because one, it takes a lot to be able to, connect to it and share it in a way where that it will make a difference, even if it's one person or 100 or, countless. There's something about saying, yeah, I want to tell my story, because something I have noticed even from my own life's experiences, that when we are able to get to that point where we can share openly, it's no longer our story. It's
Mm,
meant for the world to move something in them, right?
true.
So thank you so much for sharing that. And there's something that
Absolutely.
you said a little while before that, and I was in two minds. Should I pause you then and ask you, or maybe ask you, maybe now is that time? So you said something about how, for the longest time, and from the longest time, you've always um, been very focused, very particular about food, and how you took care of yourself. What's that like? How did that story come about? Because as kids, a lot of times we tend to be careless, right? We tend to be sort of lacking discipline, if you want to call it that. And
Mm,
then
mm.
life happens over a period of time, whether it's parents, whether it's life experiences, and we stop being that child version of ourselves. Whether so, if it was lacking discipline, we become more. aware of ourselves and we take charge. Very rarely do kids kind of already have that in them. So I'm curious to know, is there a story somewhere that you relate to this, that what made you hold, because you know this as well very very deeply, like that, right? There are values in that food or health or nutrition as a value plays a big role. So it's like chips
Mm,
versus dash. For a child,
mm.
it's very different than for someone as we grow older. So, if there's anything, again, it's just something that struck me. That's why I thought, let me ask you.
Interesting you said chips. There was a time when I was in grade one, and Amma used to pack me
Mm,
the typical traditional foods like idli or a little bit of
correct,
rice or
correct.
dosha or chapati or
Mm,
whatever,
mm,
right?
mm.
And I said, Amma, my teacher told me that I'm supposed to take chips and cake for school. I
Mm.
said, my mom's like, a handful, right? She's like a total,
Mhm.
very dynamic lady. She's like, aha, so which teacher is this? I need to talk to this
Oops.
teacher.
Oops.
A teacher who tells you that you have to bring cake and chips to school for lunch, this is all not good. I need
Uh,
to come and talk to your teacher. I said, no, 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 ma. That teacher has already left. Now new teacher is.
ooh.
So this is my little white lie to her, right?
Right,
So
right.
and Amma, sure enough, she knows that
Yeah,
I am lying. But then,
yeah.
uh, so this starts off with saying that in our household, um, eating fresh food,
Mm,
eating freshly cooked, um, eating food that is considered to be within the
mm,
guidelines of what's called healthy, within the resources that we have. It's not like we had like umpteen amount of the
mm,
best nutritious foods and all of that, but homegrown vegetables or
mm,
locally grown vegetables, I should say,
mm,
not homegrown because we were in an
mm,
apartment.
mm,
But more so like just kind of making sure, even though maybe my mother or my grandmother, who I grew up with for the most part of my
mm.
younger days, extremely meticulous with what they cooked and ate.
Wow.
And that goes for my grandmother and my grandfather. My grandfather was
Mm,
this 6 foot and a little bit more man. We used to
mm.
call him Bruce Lee. This man was like, he was not ripped up or anything, but he was just tall and, stood up
Mm,
to be a very healthy guy, meticulous with getting up in the morning, doing his prayers, doing his rituals. So we
mm.
grew up seeing that.
Right.
So I think it was, in a way, very, very important to kind of, help us grow that way. So from age 3 to age maybe around 10, 12. And
Mm,
that's when really I was able to start living with more with my father, because my father was overseas. And my dad's like a totally flamboyant personality, right? He
mm.
loves food and he loves, because he was in the Gulf. So he
Right.
loves chocolates, he loves food, he loves beer, and he wants to do ash and masti. But
Right.
by then, Lalita has already kind of just groomed her habits, and she's living with Tata and Pati, and it's a completely different ball game. And
Correct.
suddenly, all this comes, right. There's mass chocolate, there is
Mm,
fruity, there is, but then it's very careful. Even if it is casata ice cream, it has to
mm.
be a total celebration if it has to really
Right.
happen in our house. So it's not like you get casata ice cream every day.
Mm,
And chocobar ice cream was one of my favorites. So these
mm.
are all little things that I'm talking about.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
it starts off there, Rahul, where I think, in Tamil, there is a word called
Mm,
chittai. Chittai means to have the meticulousness to keep everything in place, whether it is health, whether it is
mm,
your value system, whether it's your home habits that you develop. So I think that was the spark for how this has all led to what it has led to. Because whether it be getting every oil bath every Friday, taking care of your body, taking care of your hair, my party used to keep telling me, your body is
mm.
your biggest vehicle to where you want to get to.
Wow.
So take care of it always. It was little words, right? She had no
Mm,
formal education, but that
mm.
lady, even today we worship her like she's the goddess of our family.
True.
So maybe that was one of the things I
Mm,
should say. We
beautiful.
fondly call her Palakkad Amma. So she was from
Mm,
Palakkad. So we call
got
her
it.
Palama, and I think she was probably one of the persons who was groomed most of what I've
Mm,
been able to keep up today.
amazing. Amazing. Wow. Thank you so much. That says so much, right? And
Yeah, it
such a
does. It does.
such a powerful story. And
It
I'm
is.
sure, people will remember their own their own childhood inspirations, because those things really matter, and something I've noticed, especially coaches who are on the journey,
Mm,
uh, there comes a phase where there tends to be this internal fight
mm,
for most. There are the outliers who are like amazing through and through, right? Like from
mm,
beginning to end, and that's their blessing to be in this
mm,
life, to live on that trajectory.
mm,
So like you said, when you're growing up, that was sort of like part of your what you were ingrained with.
mm,
And then, from your 20s, then of course into your 30s, and you were living in a different country. You had, your experiences in the context of your health, and then how you
mhm,
dealt with that.
mhm.
At what point did you, oh, in fact, let me say it like this: did you ever feel there was that fight internally before you realized that, no, I'm meant to do this and I'm meant to help other people in the context of coaching?
Mm. Yeah, an internal fight, I think,
Mm.
was definitely a part of the struggle to get to being more affirmative about it. Because at that
Mm.
point, it's like, especially like when I had the voice issue. I had 3 times I had voice
Wow.
issues where I lost my voice. I was not able to sing, and that's my biggest mode of communication, right? So there was a little bit of an internal struggle. It's like, to heck
Mm.
with everything that I'm doing. I've been trying so
Mm.
hard and still
Mm.
everything went wrong. So it was this little struggle that I had, fight that Lalita had with herself internally, is like,
Mm.
I'm not doing any of this, um,
Mm.
and then just kind of not giving up, so to say, but just
Mm.
internally fighting myself.
Yeah.
But then I realized that I look at the mirror and then I realize, like, seriously, I mean, why are you doing this to yourself? You know better. And if you want to be the preacher of the choir, you better stand up to be the preacher who really is practicing the preach to.
Right. Mm.
So that's where it really struck the chord. And that incident, or during that time, I had a TED talk too. So
Hmm.
during that TED talk, if I had to be original, Rahul, if I had to be
Yeah,
true to myself in every sense, I better speak up to speak up the truth and only the truth.
that's true.
So, yes, it was definitely a struggle. It's not easy, right? I mean, when you're,
Mm.
I'm not saying that I don't eat any food. I enjoy all delicacies, but I
Mm.
enjoy it in a measured portion. Even today, some of my friends say, oh, Lalita will cook a whole galore of food, but she will not
Mm.
eat any of the food. It's not true. I do eat,
Mm.
but my portion sizes are much more measured because I
Mm.
know what my body agrees with.
Correct.
And this is what I tell all my my clients, that please listen to your body. So that
Mm.
internal struggle that I had, when I tapped to myself and listened to my body and listened to
Mm.
the cues of what agrees with me,
Wow.
that's when it gave me an awakening to say, you know what,
Mm.
I can say this because I know
Mm.
I've practiced it,
Yes. Yes.
and then the other person can do what he or she is doing,
Correct.
right?
Correct.
Just because
Correct.
I like quinoa doesn't mean that
Mm.
100 other people will all like quinoa. They could eat rice and
True.
still be healthy, yaar.
Yeah.
It's totally
So
okay.
true.
But how that measures into your lifestyle,
Mm.
how you're able to balance it, is what is very important. So yes, there was an internal struggle, and maybe so at a different time with another concern there could be another struggle, and I'll have to keep
Sure.
fighting. I think
Mm.
the one thing that I've stopped asking myself is, why me?
Yes. Yes.
So I'm like, why not?
Beautiful. Why not? Exactly. Exactly.
Sometimes it's
Exactly.
difficult. Huh? It's not easy. I
Hmm.
cry, I sob, and I do all that, but it's okay. Chalega. It's
Hmm.
all right.
Amazing. Beautiful.
Hmm.
Okay, so I have a slightly different question, and this is one of the things that keeps me coming back for more and doing more of these podcasts, right?
Hmm.
Uh, a lot of this is intuitive, so I don't know what my guest is going to say. And as far as like some podcasts hosts like to do a ton of research, and like a Tim Ferriss will probably do like like books and books and books of research because that's his way of doing things, right?
Sure.
Something I
Hmm.
have found, which I truly I feel really really blessed to do this, is the intuitive sort of whispers that I get as I'm listening. So
Hmm.
something that you said just now just kind of reminded me, in your own, from your own experiences over maybe the last couple of years,
Hmm.
how have you seen the the coaching business or the coaching market, or whatever reference, whatever name one wants to call it? Because in India it's a very very new phenomenon, and I say this because
Hmm.
I got the whiff of it 20 years back, but it
Hmm.
was too early from a
Hmm.
business point of view. I mean, yes, with like with any market, you will always have that 1% of the 1% that is doing it. But for
Hmm.
most, in an Indian context, pre-COVID, it wasn't really there. Like the
Hmm.
training business was there, but coaching the way it is today, where you have webinars and like the whole nine yards, right? Everything that has been happening in the US since the 80s, 90s, which was the seminar model, and then it became the webinar model in the 2000s, and then of course post COVID. Um, in India we have a lot of that, but
Hmm.
I don't know, would love to hear from you, because I'm sure you met many people who are doing this in the US. What's that like? What's that market like? Um, in your experiences that you've come across different coaches and had conversations, maybe been in seminars with them. What's that been like for you?
Well, I must say that the pandemic definitely
Mm,
kind of shook us all up,
mm,
everybody started kind of um, just picking up slack and realizing, oops, this little thing can come to bite me at a later time, whether
yeah.
it be concerns with chronic conditions like diabetes or blood
Mm,
pressure or obesity, which always has been kind of an
mm,
thing, that the reminder, but
mm,
never so startling, right? Because
mm,
statistics today show in the pandemic that majority of the people who lost lives were not the ones who were just lean or any of that. The body image was not the main concern. It was
mm,
all chronic conditions that were bigger concerns to put you at stake or put you at
mm,
jeopardy in terms of being more susceptible to to have fatality.
mm,
So that said, sadly enough, even in a country like the US, which they say
mm,
is the brewing ground for all and everything, but yet I feel, Rahul, we could have done a better job as a country to talk more about being more proactive in terms of eating
mm,
better foods. But I think the constant thing was go get your vaccines, which
mm,
I'm not against that. Okay, I'm not
mm.
right sided or left sided
Or
in that
less.
sense in
Mm,
anywhere. But the whole fact about taking care of yourself, it was never
mm,
conveyed in any form of media.
mm,
So to come back to the story of what is health coaching today, yes,
mm,
you are so right about the fact that this whole scenario of wellness and well-being and health and
mm.
lifestyle management is
Yeah.
still even new in the United
Okay.
States. It is not
Interesting.
like they used to talk about it before. It was there in the research, it was there in the
Mm,
textbooks.
mm,
People practice it. Weight loss programs are all there,
mm,
but chronic conditions are also all there, but it was not highlighted as much as what it's
mm.
highlighted today. Even medical system, if you go to a
Right.
doctor, the doctor is only going to treat you for a condition that he sees then and there.
True.
He is not going back to the background or the roots of what was happening, which can be easily taken care of. So it's a system,
Mm,
you can't blame that. But coming back to your original question, what is coaching today like? It has
Mm,
definitely dwelled on people that the pandemic is something that could come again and hit you hard like a tsunami. So
mm,
better get your slack and, you know, clean up what you need to clean up, take
mm,
care of yourself. The awareness is happening, but it could be better, uh, better probed through doctors. And there is a lot
mm.
of functional medicine that's happening
Yes,
today, which was
yes.
never there before. So that has
Mm,
changed the whole
mm,
scenario of wellness and stuff.
mm.
And so many coaching, right?
Yeah,
Like during COVID itself, everything happened.
yeah.
Everybody was in their house and they were like, voila, let's talk about this, about wellness, let's talk about food. Uske pehle to there was none of that,
Exactly,
not too much
exactly.
at least.
Yeah.
In India, in fact, I
Mm,
feel that this party vaidyam they call, right, which is called
mm.
grandma's
Yes,
recipes of
yes.
small things that you do.
Yeah.
In fact, I used to have a series that I used to say "Party
Mm,
Sollai Tattare," which means never,
mm.
go away from what your
Yes.
grandma says. There was little remedies she used to give, home
Yeah, yeah,
remedies.
yeah.
Those
Just for the
actually
audience,
work. Yes.
I definitely wanted to share more, but just for the audience, I got it because I did live in Chennai for a couple of years. But just if you could say it again, so they really like get that there's almost like word magic in that, right?
Uh,
So the party solace. So say it again, please.
Party is grandma. Party
Mm-hmm.
Sollai Tattare, which
Beautiful.
means never cross the lines when your grandma has said something to you, especially in terms of your home
Mm,
remedies and stuff like
mm,
that.
mm, mm,
Her words are words of wisdom, so to say. Let's
mm,
to
mm,
summarize that.
mm,
So a place like India, where the Ayurveda
mm,
is one of the roots of all treatments.
mm.
Today, if you see, the Westerners are definitely taking that into
Yeah.
consideration. Curcumin, for example, is from
Mm.
turmeric, which we use
Yeah,
every day.
yeah, yeah.
Muranga is from murunga
Mm,
leaves. So these are
exactly.
all concentrated, put it into medicines, and then given to you. I am
Yeah.
not against allopathy. I'm
Mm,
a person very liberal in terms of practicing and definitely speaking up for what works at what point it needs to. But definitely important for us to remember that you know your body best.
mm.
So you need to understand, go back to your roots to see what you grew up eating, what you have
Nice.
always sustained with eating, or what you've done.
Mm,
So I think the coaching should be very personalized. It's only now and here, Rahul, that personalized medicine or personalized
mm,
coaching has become more of a style, right? Everything
mm,
is, I have my personal coach, right? So that's
mm.
become a thing now,
Yeah.
whether it's talking about the elite or people who are
Mm,
in the middle class, or people
yeah.
who are in a from a lower social economic
Yes.
background. It
Yes.
doesn't matter. Just because
Mm,
you're elite doesn't mean that only they can have coaches. You can be your own coach and just
mm,
grow up eating the foods that's around you and still be
mm,
healthy. So
mm,
back to your question, I think
mm.
style of coaching is more personalized at this point.
Mm,
It's not
mm.
cookie cutter type where one
Yes.
works for everybody. You have to study your body type,
Mm, mm.
your roots, your where you've grown up eating what you eat.
Yeah.
And I tell this to my children all the time. You've Both of you have eaten rasam chadam and
Mm,
rasam rice and sabji and
mm.
everything, and suddenly you go to this completely different diet. It may not work.
Yeah.
Your gut needs to appeal
Mm,
to that also.
mm,
So that is
mm.
something you need to remember. But there can be a lot of argument about, oh, am I getting enough protein and all that? That's a whole
Sure.
different
Sure.
conversation.
Mm,
But I think it's very important to understand your body type, and
mm.
that's how coaching should be taken forward. And I think
Nice.
it's going in that direction. Let's
Mm,
hope it
mm.
technology
Yeah.
enables us more.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's a beautiful segue. I don't know if it was me just sort of incepting it, when I kept saying technology and app in my mind as I was listening to you, and you literally like your last or your second last word was technology, and then someone who is going deeper and deeper into technology and medicine, and health rather than medicine and wellness. I'd love for you to share that. two reasons. One is, people can get to know more about, what happens in the app.
Mm-hmm.
But more importantly, I'm and I'm not, I won't say I'm a like a technical technologist, but I love keeping track of technology
Mm-hmm.
and anything to do with AI, and not just in the way you hear about it in your regular news, but it's more from a
Mm.
place of, as coaches, there is this new um, personal computer which is on another level. Like they say, the new
Mm.
version is the polymath. So all of
Mm.
us,
Mm.
as time progresses, will literally have a polymath, which means we have this one entity that knows everything,
Correct.
right?
Correct.
Is
Mm.
not knowing one language, knows like dozens of languages, right? And can
Mm.
speak it backward and forward, right? And has like the access to the greatest, the deepest, and the best libraries in the world, from the
Mm.
Harvards to whatever else, right? You
Mm.
name it,
Mm.
our polymath in the future. And by that I mean like 1 to 2 years from now.
Sure.
So I'm
Sure.
always thinking like, okay, how is this? What is it as coaches we need to definitely keep our pulse on, because
Mm.
for people who miss the whole .com thing, either you were too young, or you were like, I can't do this, or I don't understand it. That was one wave.
Mm.
As coaches today, we have this really, really beautiful advantage for us who decide to tap into, it's not just the app, it's everything beyond that. So I'd love for you to
Mm-hmm.
share, like, what was some of your experiences, some of your stories that you had in that process of, as you said, you're the CEO of this company, which means there was this whole journey from idea to, and again, it's like if someone was to see your bio, so to speak, where you're looking at the arts on the one hand, and you're looking at health coaching on the other hand. Now you're talking about technology on another level, right? uh, I'm really curious to know like some of those stories, because my intention is that even if it inspires one person who's watching this, and they're like, you know what, in my field of coaching, what can I do that Lalita did? Even if it's like 1% from the idea perspective, that inspires them to start blending technology into what they're doing. I know that there are literally like hundreds, and now more and more thousands of people who will benefit from it. So
Absolutely.
do share, like, what inspired you to say, let's make an app, or let me get involved in this project? Because I mean, that was one of my questions when we met way back. And maybe we, depending on how our conversation goes, I'd love for you to share that part. No, I won't say anything what it is yet. Only those who've been following you on Insta know, or on Facebook.
Sure.
But we'll come to that in a moment. So you just kind of like, hang on, we're not done yet. So like we're moving to that part soon. But for now, if you could just share, um, what was that journey like from, must have been like a sort of like an idea that came from somewhere, and then it just kind of grew with time, and it is what it is today, and it's just the beginning. It's only getting better with time. The
Sure. Sure.
Everything to do with the tech and the app.
Yeah. So like I told you in the beginning, right? Yeah, I am not a person who was very savvy with technology, and
Mm.
a person who knew the computers very well. There was probably
Mm.
a couple courses we took in high school,
Mm.
and then in
Mm.
going forward in college, maybe a few more. And then
Mm.
this was only an extra tool for me to handle when I had
Mm.
to handle, because I don't know how to traditionally do the typing and all of that. But but after I had practiced for almost uh, 15 years, I should say, going into the 15th or 16th year, I
Mm.
realized that something kind of triggered me to realize that we are moving into a phase where we are reaching out through social media,
Yeah.
we're talking to people through that forum, and it's not anymore that people don't have information available to them
Yes.
at their disposal.
Yes. Yes.
Information is galore. This is
Mm.
during the whole .com and all of that.
Yes.
People have all the information that they want. Now, if
Yes.
Lalita as a coach needs to exist and be in business,
Yes.
she needs to reach out to more people out there.
Mm.
So that was one of the things that triggered me to say, you know what, I can't be sitting down in my house saying that I need all my clients, I need to talk to them, I need to reach out to them.
Mm.
My forum is social media. My forum is where I could reach out to people. And then, of course, internet was just kind of,
Mm.
building up and stuff. So
Just
this
for
is like,
clarity, just I didn't mean to cut you off. Just for clarity and for timelining it for people listening,
sure.
this would be around early 2000s, early to mid.
Yes. Yes,
Hmm.
yes, mid
Perfect.
2000s, yes.
Hmm.
And that's when it kind of I was still actively, consulting with patients. I used to work at a nephrology clinic, see about 25 patients a
Wow.
day, write notes, write charts,
Wow.
and that's when it, like, and of course that was a time when my voice was kind of taking a beating too, so I had to kind of rest it.
Yeah.
So I'm looking at a solution to that. If I can
Mm.
actually reach
Amazing.
out through a forum and through technology, I could make a bigger difference, because
Yep.
the reach is enormous. And
Mm.
now with what the advent of AI is only now,
Mm.
right?
Mm.
But even
True.
before that, that
Mm.
that forum itself is a bigger reach. So
Yeah.
I'm like, I was talking about this, and one of my founders, who's actually big into the knowledge graph, they say, where it is actually a cumbersome way of how you collect data, and
Mm.
you extrapolate that data to bring analytics out of it. And this is a
Mm.
little bit of a techno lingo, but I'm
Mm.
learning too. But that said, and then I'm like talking to him, and I'm saying, you know what, I need to develop an app that really communicates with my folks, my people, to tell them
Mm.
how I can teach them to eat healthy. I can show
Mm.
them videos, I can send them links, and communicate with them, and be more of their personal coach.
Mm.
And voila, I mean, it kind of just all came in place, in that it was
Right.
just before COVID when we were talking about this.
Right.
And there was another gentleman who was talking about a very similar thing called patient graph, or patient knowledge graph, where he
Mm.
was talking about getting all the clinical information about a patient
That's
and putting that together.
GRAPH, right?
Graph,
Graph.
yes,
Got
graph,
it.
yes. So the knowledge graph has actually worked very significantly in other areas, like in the real estate, in the finance, and
Mm.
all of that. In health, it's really kind of coming to place now. What that does is it communicates A to B and B to C and C to
Mm.
A and A to B. So there
Mm.
is like a good network of communication and putting all that together. In
Mm.
perspective, just a simple example, let me tell you, is that if you take a
Mm.
person, you don't have just physical health. You have emotional
Mm.
health, you have social
Correct.
health, you have
Correct.
mental health, you have financial health, you have
Mm.
spiritual health.
Yeah.
All that put together
Yeah.
encompasses the complete person. Now,
Mm.
when you're talking health, and especially proactive health, you need to know all of
Yes.
these in order
Mm.
to ensure that they are in place. So that
Mm.
really what triggered me to bringing this, what I have as a company now, which
Mm.
we're super thrilled about, and a
Nice.
lot of good things happening there. But
Beautiful.
that kind of just laid the foundation, and then
Yeah.
we all came together. And of course,
Mm.
sure enough, if we had actually brought it up at COVID time, we would have been billionaires by now. But yet,
Mm.
let's keep praying to the gods that
Yeah.
it's yet to happen. But I think it's still a very good time to
Mm.
talk about it, and
Mm.
and I think it's the need of the time, where healthcare is coming to a level where they're talking about personalization and precision medicine, and more of these
Mm.
fancy lingo that they're talking
Yeah.
about.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think we are in the right track, and we
Yeah.
definitely do need to kind of market ourselves correctly to so
Mm.
people hear us and know more about us.
Beautiful. I have something I want to share with you. uh, so in my journey of doing what I've been doing now for over 2 decades, right? From traditional counseling, and I personally did not connect with the model too much, especially in the business context. And I'm talking in India, like 20, 25 years ago, where counseling is not something that is seen as a viable model, because the model itself, the plan, or the marketing behind it, or the need for it, or the market size, if you look at it, I'm
Mm,
talking over
mm,
the last 2 decades, right,
mm.
was very almost minuscule for the billion plus that we have
Sure.
in our country. So that sort of got me going in the initial phase. And finally, I realized that you mentioned again another beautiful I wouldn't say it's a segue, but it's definitely a key word, which is marketing. And I realized that having been focusing on the, on the core skill, because
Mm-hmm.
it's not just about telling somebody you can be fine or
Mm,
everything will be okay. That's motivation.
mm,
That's it's
mm.
important, but it's not
Correct.
the it's not the solution, right? Until something inside them stirs and moves, whatever you're doing as a coach, it's just part of the journey, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's something I had realized with time, and I had done, use tapped into different modules, and of course, I found NLP, neuro linguistic programming, which
Mm-hmm.
in
Mm-hmm.
turn, as I started to go deeper and deeper into it, it led me to hypnosis, and for me, that's sort of like my muse, right? And of course, today I blend the two. So there are points where I'm using NLP, which is more sort of structured, and then there's of course the, like connecting to the divine, which is my way of looking at hypnosis. The reason why I'm saying all of this is when I started to actually focus on the areas that hadn't been developed, right? In
Mm-hmm.
this case, it was the marketing
Mm-hmm.
in 2020, by which time I had started to actively, invest in learning because I had missed certain things as far as how do you market what you do.
Mm.
I also, when I say missed it in the sense that I was not ready yet. I think that's
Mm.
how
Mm.
I look at it. But here's the thing which I learned in one of my finance classes back then. They
Mm.
talked about the markets moving in 8 to 10 year cycles.
Mm.
Okay, so there's a reason why we are where we are doing what we're doing, because when there is that shift, which is somewhere in the next 3 to 5 years, we are in
Mm.
24 right now.
Mm-hmm.
We'll be ready
Mm.
because you all. I'm sure you understand this, Lalita, and I'm willing to bet this is one of your values, which is it's not just about making the money.
Mm-hmm.
It is about deeply serving people in a way that transforms them so much from their core that they can never go back to, like you mentioned in your story, about the chips, and then about, uh, being indoctrinated so deeply in the positive,
Sure.
in good health, and from an awareness point of view and an application and being point of view,
Mm-hmm.
that
Mm-hmm.
eventually when you were back with your appa, you were like, not me, I kind of missed the bus on that. I'm like, maybe a few years ago but not now, right? So I'm sure that somewhere in what you're doing, your intention is to give people that understanding and that choice that they make, that they
Right.
go, I will not eat after so and so time because I
Mm-hmm.
know what's happening.
Mm-hmm.
And again, like you said, everybody has a different makeup,
Mm-hmm.
right? Quinoa for somebody may be good, for somebody may not. For somebody it may sort of like finally quell their cravings. For some it may kind of actually amplify it, right?
Mm-hmm.
In fact, just
Mm-hmm.
yesterday I was talking to somebody about coffee, and
Mm.
that coffee agrees with some people, coffee doesn't agree with others, right? And it doesn't matter, because as long as you're being aware of what is your body telling you, what
Correct.
is your body, what's it saying, and then you start listening to it, that is really what makes all the difference.
Correct.
So
Absolutely.
so another aspect to this, when you talked about technology, and of course you talked about marketing, so maybe we'll go there.
Mm-hmm.
um, I'd love to hear some of your stories of um, when you finally decided to start coaching under your brand versus maybe the initial phase was, as you said, you were seeing like 25 people on a daily basis, and so that's sort of more like, if I can, correct me if I'm wrong, that's kind of like the hospital model, right?
Sure.
Which means
Clinical setting.
clinical it's a clinical,
Correct.
exactly, so it's a clinical
Yeah.
model, right? Even from a
Correct.
marketing point of view.
Correct.
When you look at coaching, it has a slightly different perspective, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the way that it works. So I'd love for you to share, like, what are some of the things that you discovered along the way when it comes to branding, when it comes to marketing? What are some of those stories that you may have come across, which I'm sure will help people as they hear you?
Sure. Um, the very important thing that kind of just struck my memory now is I have always had this when I talk or do my coaching,
Mm-hmm.
the most important thing is AOTC, ahead of
Hmm.
the curve. AOTC,
Mm.
which means being proactive in many sense, um, to see what's coming up, just like how you said, being ready for what's coming up in
Mm.
4 to 5 years. And that kind of really was the enabler for me. Maybe it was my instinctive and my intuitive thinking also, that I'm thinking, since I was not good at technology, I made a more conscious effort to say, you know what, I'm going to put myself there and make sure I learn it,
Mm.
which immediately kind of jived with my,
Mm.
lingo and my profession, that I was able to communicate through that to a lot more people.
Mm.
So my 2 cents worth, if you say, or my little
Mm.
secret sauce for marketing is, reach out through the source that can reach out to a lot more people in your community, number one.
Mm.
Reach out with a personal story, number two,
Mm.
and be very proactive in your reaching out.
Mm.
Sometimes when we do certain things, it doesn't, the effect of it is probably not in front of us immediately, but I really feel you will see the results of it coming up pretty soon. So
Mm.
build your community, make your plans ahead of the curve, be ahead of what's happening at that point. It's okay to kind of be a little weird and different from
Mm.
others, and kind of think differently out of the box, where it could
Right.
be something which is very futuristic, but trust
Mm.
me, it is something which probably somebody else would have thought about. It's not this like, voila, it's an idea and you've invented it.
Mm.
Everything that you think about, you discover, is something that another person would have also thought about. It's
Mm.
just that they didn't execute it. So
Right.
don't think that you are weird that you've thought about something like this. For example, when I thought about this app for health and nutrition,
Mm.
a lot of people are like, how the heck are you going to communicate with people
Mm.
through an app? This is like we're talking 15 years ago.
Mm.
At that point, I didn't have the source for
Yeah.
it and the resources for it.
Right.
But then today, this is what's happening, right? This is
Mm.
exactly
Mm.
what's happening.
Mm.
So that thought process, don't discount those thought processes. Number one, be proactive, be ahead of the
Mm.
curve, always look at what is more futuristic. And that's
Mm.
probably one of the ways the market is moving to, in all directions, right? We are very
Mm.
futuristic with AI. In the realm of all of what we are talking about, everything is very
Mm.
futuristic. We're looking at what's ahead of us, what can be for a better world in all sense. So I think it's very important to
Mm.
communicate to a community that is more reachable for you. And for me, that community
Mm.
is definitely through a forum like this, through social media and stuff. Of
Mm.
course, books, needless to say, but I think technology is a big enabler, in my
Mm.
opinion, because
Nice.
the reach is wide and spread out far and wide, and
Mm.
you're going beyond boundaries. So
Mm.
definitely very important to communicate that way. And also hone some of your personal skills, like I just
Mm.
told you that story that I was talking about. To me, passion is very important. So when I communicate with my clients, I talk to them
Mm.
about, what is your passion, what do you love
Mm.
doing, what is that
Mm.
one thing that you just want to sit down and do and just forget the world. When they
Mm.
talk about that, it's a hook for me. Then I
Right.
talk to people and I kind of pull them into, my counseling session, or when I talk to them. So always, for me, my personal story is, love what you do and do what you love. So that's probably another way of, marketing yourself, and a good
Yeah.
way of coaching also. So
Mm. Amazing. So I have something now. It's like perfect timing. Uh, there are two sort of like like the roads diverge to two, or the road diverged to to 2 points,
mm,
and I'll leave it to you to pick whichever you resonate with like instantly. One is something that you did over the last, that it took you a certain journey to get to a place where you did something over the last maybe month and a half or two, and it was this whole plan, and then you rolled it out, and you had some experiences. That's one. The other is your own experiences of building community, right? So
mm,
where like, so these are like two that I'm sure will inspire people. uh, and I'm purposely being a little circumspect about the first one, because that in
Mm.
itself, people. It's amazing when people hear it from you, right?
Sure.
So, and I'm talking obviously something that involves nature and being up and out there and up there. So, in case I wasn't clear, I'm like hinting at that one I'm talking about. So,
No, no, I think you've made it very clear to me. Well, this year is my milestone. I am half a century wise and alive in this world. Um, and it is definitely a very important year for me. For the milestone, I had planned 5 years ago
nice.
when I was 45. I had planned that when I turned
Mm,
50, I am going to go to the Everest, to the base camp. And sure enough, I'm not a hiker, listeners.
mm,
I am not a person who does active sports and runs or any of those. But yes, I'm very fit in terms of my physical fitness
mm,
and my mental fitness. And I had kind of affirmed to myself 5 years ago that I am going to do this for my milestone. No parties, no throwing big parties. It's lovely to have the girlfriends around and throw a party for
mm,
yourself for the 50th and then have a birthday bash. But I think I wanted to do something close to nature
mm,
because I'm a big believer that you are a creation of nature and you are one of the most phenomenal creations of nature. So the closer you get to the
mm.
nature, I think you feel that grounding. So that led me to training myself. And of course,
Nice.
I should say my husband and my spouse was definitely very supportive because he is an athlete, he runs. So
Mm,
this kind of just, jived very well for us. And I kind of
yes.
talked him into doing that. He's like, 6 months ago, he's like, you're just talking about it. I don't think you're going to do anything about it. And like, dude, I'm really doing this. And, January, both my boys were like, Mom, here's the cash for you. You're doing this year. I'm like, wow, you guys are more proactive than
Mm.
I thought. And so it really came into fruition. So September 14th, we were
Mm.
Everest Base Camp. Um, it was mind blowing, Rahul. It was
Wow.
just an experience in itself, and I
Right.
don't think I can explain it all.
Mm.
I would definitely fail by just putting it in words because
Mm.
it's to be felt.
Yeah.
When I went there for the first few moments, I just had tears dropping down my eyes. And I don't know why, because I think I just felt completely submitted. I felt grounded, submitted, completely at peace, looking at everything that was around me, that was only nature and pure nature.
Mm.
The training definitely was quite grueling. The
Mm.
14 days of walking we did, almost 80 miles of walking with about 9 hours of walking each day.
Wow.
We had calluses, we had sore knees, and it was just the two of us. It was not like we were going in a big group.
Oh.
Um, and sure enough, my husband, who's an athlete, he would like pair up with our Sherpa, who was like ahead of us, and he's like running. And here I'm like, you know, uh, huffing and puffing and getting to where I need to get to the endless number of steps that happens. But I did it. At the
Mm.
end of it, it was like, damn, if I can do this, I can do anything
Anything.
else.
That's
And
right.
that's the feeling it was. Okay, now
Beautiful.
having come back after the trip, there are doubts about everything that I can do. But yes, that's like my trump card, right? If I look at
Mm.
anything that I want to do, and when I have my low days, it's like if you can go to the Everest, Lalta,
Yeah.
you can do this too.
That's right.
So
Beautiful.
so I think that was one of the stories that recently happened, but thank you so much for kind of highlighting that. It definitely was bliss.
Yeah.
If you ask me, can I do that again? I don't know. But
Mm.
I definitely want to do something along those
Mm.
lines where I
Mm.
want to do more nature stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
I have other plans in my
Yeah.
little caboodle, but I wouldn't kind of
Mm.
speak it out
Mm.
loud
Yeah. Yeah.
because
Yeah.
I scare everybody else about it. But then I think everybody should do something like that, for your milestone events. Do something for
Mm,
yourself personal, that really kind of challenges you and puts you in that target. I think whether it's planning to be on a regimen, or planning to discipline yourself. Sorry. Planning to
that's okay.
discipline yourself
Mm,
with getting off of certain unhealthy habits, or reading a book, or building up a
mm,
new passion, whatever it is. It should be
mm,
a challenge that you do. And if you focus on it 200%, I think you
yeah,
can do it.
yeah,
So,
amazing. And that's why I said something you said before I asked you out loud about even in your marketing,
mm,
be different.
hmm,
So it's like literally you had kind of set that intention so long ago, and now more and more with with Insta and all of this, like the world changing much
hmm,
faster, and literally like they say every 3 months, every 6 months, every 1 year, it's changing on a completely, like people can't, like even the experts cannot predict anymore, right? It's
correct,
like every other week it's breaking models of, oh, it can be like this, no, 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 that was so 6 months ago kind of a thing, right?
correct.
So, and you're right, when you are willing to focus, like you are willing to focus on yourself, and that sort of becomes part of you wearing your brand on your sleeve, literally,
Hmm.
and it doesn't matter what, as you said, what challenge you choose, but choosing it is what makes all the difference, right?
Absolutely,
So
absolutely.
maybe just one question for the moment, and we'll see where our inspiration leads us.
Sure.
um, if you could share your take on community, like, and I'm sure even culturally, and because you've been exposed and you've lived in both,
Hmm.
what's your take on community, but more in the context of coaching? Because there is finally this awakening and an awareness that community is important, especially as a coach.
Hmm.
So, like for example, I meet my community members every week, every Monday and Friday, and I get to spend some time with them. I get to, you know, in my own way, lead them. And today, of course, this is being done live. Today, it is being done, via Zoom. There will come a point in time where it's sort of like the digital likeness that knows everything about me will be available for people 24/7 whenever they need it, right? That's
Sure.
where we're moving, right? And
Hmm.
it's no
Hmm.
longer just some science fiction stuff. It is
Correct.
happening. It's just a
Happening.
matter of that moment where it just kind of, it just clicks, and then
Hmm.
that becomes the norm. Like today, Zoom is the norm.
Correct.
So the reason why I'm sort of putting that into context is I'd love for you to hear your perspective on, you know, what what is community, especially as someone who's helping other people, working with other people. What's that like? What are some of your philosophies on it?
That's a very good, point made, because I think I was just kind of, placing myself in terms of
Mm,
who I am, what I am today is definitely because of the support system that this
right.
community has given me. 29 years ago, when I came here to this
Mm,
country, I definitely was kind of, exploring and opening
mm,
myself out to see, hey, where do I fit in, right?
mm,
What are some of the value systems that we share that I could kind of be comfortable, and sometimes maybe not comfortable also, and learn,
mm,
because you
mm,
shouldn't be always very comfortable. Then you kind of become very
mm,
set in your ways. You
right.
should feel a little uncomfortable, and that's when learning happens.
Mm,
So I think one of the biggest thing that, Rahul, that I have been able to get from my community is constant learning.
mm,
If you are a coach, you also learn along.
mm. Ah, you got
I
a
did put it
call
in.
come. Huh. Yeah, we're
Yes,
good. We're
I'm
good.
so
Now we're
sorry
back.
if there was an
That's okay.
interruption. Okay, so what I was trying to get at was, if you are a coach, you also learn
Mm,
along as you go,
correct.
right?
Yeah.
So I think the community that I have enabled myself, or I have connected myself to, is a community that is definitely helping me learn a lot. um,
Mm,
this community could be community of people in the fine arts, the performing arts. It could be the community that I have as friends and
Mm,
my family. It could be community from my professional forum, where
mm,
now I'm working towards the platform that we're talking about for health.
mm,
But all of that as one common thing is exploration for me. I
mm,
learn with them. I constantly am learning with them. Like for example, this whole experience of doing the startup has brought me
mm.
a completely different
Yeah,
environment of
true.
a corporate community. Right? I was never in corporate before.
Yeah.
I was my own boss. I used to do my own consultations and be in my own little room doing all the consultation, running my own practice. And now I'm into the
Mm,
corporate business. So it's a completely different community. So the lingo is different, the mannerisms are different. But I
mm,
think the biggest thing that you need to do is um, have a diverse community,
mm,
Rahul. It should definitely not be very monochromatic. I think it's a little boring
mm,
in my opinion.
mm,
When I mean monochromatic, make it colorful. Just like how I talk
mm,
about food being colorful, and you have to have all
mm,
colors in your food, your
mm,
community should be colorful too. Because only then, when it's diverse and you have a little bit of that and a little bit of that and a little bit of
mm.
spice in your life, you learn from different people.
Right.
The community could be young, old, different ethnicities, different value systems. And I really feel that that has been my biggest learning all through in
Mm,
the last 2 decades and more.
mm,
So the community is constantly building, and I'm a big supporter of uh, increasing the community as we go. Some may leave from that community,
mm,
and then others may
mm.
come in, but doesn't mean that those who left didn't make you learn anything. They have also
Correct.
made you learn something, and you go along
Mm,
learning. So I love to remain a student in that community and love to learn. And I think one of the biggest things that I've understood is, if I have a diverse community,
mm.
I really I'm helping myself a little bit more, because
Right.
I learn from different settings and it's not always the same. Um,
Mm.
so did I kind of
Yeah,
support
yeah,
the
absolutely.
yeah
Absolutely.
points? Okay,
So,
fantastic.
you've done a lot of things in the last several years and of course decades, and in the context of coaching as well, you know, one is of course the app, but is there anything that you want to talk about, so people, you know, can get to know you better, people, and because they're getting to know you through this pod, you know, whether it's a book or an upcoming book, whether it's something that you're intending or that you've already put out into the world, is there something like this that you want more people to know about? Because at the end of the day, you know, as they say, um, it's the attention economy, right? That's what we're in, and
Sure.
the more, you know, attention that you get, you will find your people that really resonate with your message through that. So, you know, if there's anything that in your mind you're like, yeah, this is something I want to share now, uh,
Absolutely.
possibly what could that be? Yeah.
Yeah. So earlier we had mentioned about the platform that
Mm.
I'm working on. The company is actually called, the startup is called Hikigai, and I really wanted to
Mm.
share the Ikigai book. I don't know how many
Mm.
of us has read this book, but we
Mm.
added an H in the front to make it
Right.
health Ikigai. So
Okay.
the name of our company is Hikigai, as in Hikigai. The company is
Mm.
actually a platform that it's not just an app, but a platform that where you can enable other apps to sit on top of the platform. And it's
Mm.
a company based out of the US. And we are basically promoting being a platform which is an AI assist platform that
Mm.
brings into the limelight the 360 view of every person. In other sense,
Mm.
a digital twin in the making for
Nice.
a doctor or for a clinician or for a
Mm.
physician, so they can understand a person whole and soul. Because every
Mm,
time, in real time, when you're seeing a client or a patient, you only know about what they're going through at that particular
yeah,
moment, whether it is
yeah,
a sickness or whether it is a chronic ailment. It is just a problem that needs to be addressed at that time, right? Because you don't,
yeah.
now, first of all, you don't have all the time to address all of the problems. But a platform
Mm,
like this is that enabler that will give you a background of all and everything that should be known about this patient or this
mm,
individual as a digital twin, so the doctor can
mm,
do a phenomenal job in terms of better diagnosing, better treatment plans, especially knowing that longevity in the world now is mainly dependent
mm,
on chronic ailments. When I talk chronic ailments,
mm,
it's diabetes, blood pressure, heart disease, cancer, and the likes of it. These are
mm,
diseases which are controlled by a lot of other factors besides just checking clinical health. You need to check your physical health, you need to check your emotional health, your mental
mm,
health, which is very important. So the platform is that enabler for the doctors. We start off with teaching or with assisting doctors through AI, and the
mm.
precision is more and more, and the confidence is more and more because
Yeah,
it becomes more customized to the doctor in that specialty.
nice,
We then move on to teaching, enabling pharmaceuticals, government
nice.
policies, and the likes of it in other healthcare.
Beautiful.
So, for all our listeners today, I would definitely say, please go and check out Hikigai on LinkedIn if you could.
Mm,
We also have a very simple one, landing page that we have. We still are in the
nice.
process of kind of building our community in terms of increasing our people out there, doctors out
Mm,
there who could reach out to this. But I think right now my simple focus is Hikigai, which I definitely
nice.
want as a company to
Mm,
grow. And I think we are in the right track, and the need is very important, especially when we talk the AI lingo.
mm,
So we'll see what is in store for us, and
beautiful.
would love to talk more about it at a later time if people are
Yeah,
interested.
yeah. We definitely look forward to, something I discovered today. So Thursdays we do two recording of two pods, right? So
Hmm.
the guest Hetal asked me at the start of our or just before we started recording. She's like, so like, is this like, how does this pod work? Because we're meeting now. I said, no, 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 no. I said, something you said just now just kind of reminded me that there are more than 30 guests who have come, and now is
Mm,
that perfect time because it's been 6, maybe 8 months. So it's a perfect time to sort of like knock on the door of people who came in the early phase
early.
and check in
Mm,
with them the first 5, 10, 15, so that they can come back and share what their stories have been like.
sure,
Because it's like,
sure.
what is 6 months later? Like, what has life been? And especially in the life of a coach, there's sometimes it can be an entire revamp. Sometimes it can be a personal revamp that has kind of shifted everything internally and then, of course,
Yep,
outside.
yep, yep.
So my point being that we will definitely, I'd love to invite you back to share more on this, especially when you talk about the digital twin and someone who is, it's not just, it's one thing you read it or read about it or see it or listen to it on a podcast. It's a very different thing having conversations with you where you're actually involved in it on a day-to-day basis. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm, even at a personal level, I'm very, very keen on hearing what, obviously, what you can share, in this context, because we are moving in that direction. It's just a matter of time,
Absolutely.
right?
Absolutely.
One last thing which I feel
Sure.
is, it's sort of like a, I, I I don't know what to call it. Is it a pet project? Is it a pet peeve? I don't know. Okay, so I'm just using the pet part of it. The other,
Okay.
I still don't know. Okay,
Okay.
so there's this whole world of longevity,
Mm-hmm.
right? And especially in the US, it's very polarized,
Mm-hmm.
from the kind of foods like vegan versus, what is it, your plant based and what have you, right? There are all sorts of names
Mm.
that the US is very good at branding
Correct.
these, are you in this camp, are you in that camp, right?
Correct.
That's one.
Correct. Mm.
But there's a new movement that seems to be gaining more and more traction. I'm sure you've heard of Brian Johnson and
Mm-hmm.
his talk about, I mean, his basically his mantra is don't die, right? So as
Mm-hmm.
you said, and very interesting, like we didn't have any conversation before this, but you said something
Mm-hmm.
about more and more as time progresses, it's really about chronic illness and not anything else. Meaning
Mm-hmm.
that if you have these chronic diseases, that is what will take you out of the game if
Mm-hmm.
you don't take care.
Mm-hmm.
This is my reading of what you said, right?
Yep.
So I'm curious to hear what is your take on longevity, and especially when we talk about data mining, and we talk about your doctor will know so much more about you, and in many ways what you're already kind of you know working on. But just as a concept, when we talk about longevity, and yeah, I mean, what where do you, or how do you look at this?
It's interesting because this morning all these books that I had around me. So this
Hmm.
was another one that I
Ooh,
it
wow.
talks about how to die young at a ripe old age. Uh-huh.
Nice.
The
Nice.
title of this book
Yeah.
is really the essence of the answer to your question, I would say. So
Mm.
um, it's this whole neuroplasticity that we're talking
Mm-hmm.
about,
Mm-hmm.
regenerating cells,
Mm. Mm.
kind of delaying aging. We have
Mm.
all come to understand, Rahul, that life is expectancy, or the longevity is not just 60s and 70s
Yeah.
anymore. We have seen
Yeah.
people at 90s, we have seen people at the hundreds, we have seen
Yes.
people at the 100 plus in the blue
Mm.
zones.
Yeah.
So that is a reality, it's not
Correct.
fantasy.
Mm.
We know that. Having said that, I think one of the most important things is um, scan yourself from
Mm.
top to bottom at every so often to see what are some of those chronic ailments that's
Mm.
happening within you. Whether it's I'm not talking about external appearance, right? Losing,
Mm.
shedding hair, not having good nails, or having little tags on your skin. These are all
Mm.
external factors. We're talking about internal factors that's affecting
Mm.
your body on a day-to-day basis.
Mm.
Maybe having blurred vision, having
Mm.
glasses for reading. These are all processes of chronological aging also.
Correct.
But that said, if you're able to maintain your body type in terms of what your body type is, for me, my
Mm.
GI is very sensitive. So that's one thing that I
Mm.
pay attention to absolutely importantly. And
Mm.
coming back to that, the roots of for all of us comes from your GI. Your gut is your
Mm.
biggest brewing ground, I should say, for good health. So
Yeah.
if you want to maintain good health and if you want to maintain longevity, I think you definitely need to pay attention to your gut. Gut health is absolutely important. And when I'm
Mm.
talking gut health, I'm talking about all the good bacteria that you want to kind of
Mm.
proliferate there and not make it very you want to have it diverse, like I spoke about the
Mm.
community. You want to have it
Mm.
very diverse. You want to proliferate different types of good bacteria in your gut and keep that healthy. For that,
Mm.
you need to go back to eating what you are eating and sustaining, and what is growing closer to you, what's available to you, what's geographically available to you. Also checking back to scan yourself to see what agrees with your body and what doesn't agree with your body. Just
Mm.
because I'm here in the US, it doesn't mean that I always eat Brussels sprouts, broccoli, avocados, cheddar cheese,
Mm.
and all of those, because that's probably not something that I've eaten up all my life. And
Mm.
suddenly, if I kind of switch to all of that, it's going to kind of mess up my system.
Mm.
If I'm used to eating curd rice in the morning, first thing in the morning as my probiotic, that's
Right.
what I should continue doing.
Mm.
And you are in a world today where everything and all is available to you also.
Mm.
I mean, of course, you do have your constraints at some point if it's economically and socially also. But then try to be a little bit more personal about your body type, and I think
Mm,
that's probably is going to help you extend
mm,
your longevity. Of course, life and death is inevitable, and it's not in our hands, and there are things that can go beyond your control. But for the most part, if you are able to stay within
mm,
your body type, taking care of your gut, I think longevity is definitely a important thing to
mm.
look up to, and it's very very critical. When I mean longevity, I mean longevity up here and down here.
Right. True.
So
Beautiful.
with neuroplasticity, which means kind of doing newer activities, learning a new art form, learning a new language, being with people who are not of the same age, trying to
Mm,
learn a technology, for example. I think these are all things that can enable neuroplasticity, which means they will
mm.
regenerate some of those cells and
Yeah.
improve your functionality for the brain. But the gut
Mm,
health, I think, is the brewing ground for all chronic ailments. And I think that's really what Mr. Grundy or Dr. Grundy
mm,
explains in the book too. If your listeners would love to read that, I think
mm.
that's a start of one of the things. But of course, there
Beautiful.
are so many other books that you can read
Of course,
for
of course.
longevity. Yep.
Amazing, amazing. And thank you for all these, these really, really powerful inputs. There's one thing before we go, if you could, mention, like you said, doing these scans internally, as someone
Mm,
who has seen, like I've heard one of them, like they talk about the DEXA. Now, I'm
mm,
in no way a specialist, but I've, experiment with it a little bit over
mm,
time.
mm, mm,
So maybe if you feel or if you sense that there are two or three of these scans or things that people can do that will help people, whether they're in their 30s, whether in their 40s, 50s for that matter. And since we are talking, it's sort of like today, it's, a lot of these ailments, the time when it starts or when it gets, accelerated is not what it used to be. So
mm.
if you're saying, okay, there are these, get these 2 3 tests done, it at least gets people open to the idea of saying, okay, maybe I can do that. So
Sure,
if there's
sure.
something that you would recommend, do please do share that as well.
Uh, One of the most important things universally, regardless of
Mm,
gender, right?
mm,
I think check your nutrient
mm,
um, um, availability that your body is getting. When I talk
mm,
nutrients, it's not the macronutrients, not the
mm,
carbohydrates, the protein, the fat, and
mm.
the starches. But I'm talking about the micronutrients, which is the vitamins and the minerals.
Right.
The vitamins and the minerals are the stuff that you actually get from your fruits and vegetables and these superfoods that they talk about, right? Some
Mm,
of the foods that we are not able to kind of include in a rut of our life, that we don't include those every time. These
mm,
are like probiotics, or these are like these smaller amount of foods that you eat in smaller quantities, which you don't need
mm,
in bigger quantities, because the vitamins and minerals also you need in smaller quantities. That
mm,
said, one of the biggest things that is probably an epidemic of concern is
mm,
vitamin D deficiency.
mm,
Doesn't matter whether you're in a sunny place or you're not in a sunny place. Michigan, for example, we're not blessed with
mm.
sun always. We are
Yeah.
indoors all the time. But that doesn't matter. Today, most people are sitting indoors anyways. We're
Yeah.
not getting out of
True.
the house as much. So get your vitamin D levels checked, whether it's men or women, guys. It's only not a thing for women or about their bones. It's also for men, because vitamin D is also a concern where your mood swings and your
Mm,
metabolism can be definitely affected. That's another important thing. And I think, like I said, the other third important thing is your gut health.
mm,
And that can be simply checked with your physicals that you do to see if there is any GI concerns, if there is any absorption problems, and if there is other underlying conditions like your diabetes, your blood pressure problems, your cardiovascular diseases. The
mm,
brewing ground is your gut. It starts from there.
mm, mm,
So please keep check on that. And of course, I would definitely recommend for women, especially when they are postmenopausal, your heart health is very critical, because you are not blessed with the so-called the estrogen, the
Mm,
fantastic hormone that helps women to stay in good health and completely, in balance. So you definitely want to keep tab on that. For men, I think it's that same thing. They also go through menopause, which we don't
mm,
understand and we don't realize
mm,
sometimes. And for
true.
men too, the levels of the hormones that we need to look at, the hormonal balance is very critical.
Mm,
So at that age, but I do see that the younger people in the 20s and the 30s are now developing some of the chronic conditions, which was
mm,
not a case when we were
yeah,
during our generation, which means diabetes or cardiovascular disease,
yeah.
especially the Asian Indian men.
Mm,
We are unfortunately we have a predisposition to cardiovascular disease. So I
mm,
definitely would kind of shake you up a little bit and
mm,
remind you that you need to be additionally careful than all other ethnicities around you, just
mm,
because they have a higher LDL level or a lower HDL level doesn't mean
mm,
that they are the same body type as you, because we do have a predisposed condition. Um, we can be questioning God for that, but that's how it is. That's how the make
yeah.
is. But we need to be more aware and conscientious about our food habits and about our exercise habits also. Don't
Mm,
overdo your exercising too, because we've heard many stories, especially recently
mm,
during COVID, where people have kind of triggered something and then they just are,
mm,
dropping down and never coming back to life again. So I think
mm.
those are the few things. If I can give you reminders, gut health and brain health are very important, and
And the
obviously the
nutrients, right?
vitamins, nutrients,
Mm,
yeah,
the
the
nutrients.
micronutrients.
Beautiful. Amazing. So as we prepare to launch into so much that will happen till we meet again,
Mm-hmm.
if there's anything that Lalita, that you would like to maybe focus on or talk about, if we haven't covered it already, um, you know, as they say, the stage is yours, the mic is yours. So if there's anything that that's coming up for you that yeah, I'd like to also talk about this. I mean, that's the reason why this pod exists. So
Well, Rahul, I should just say this last hour and a half, was it? I don't know. Was it?
something
Yeah.
like that, yeah. Mm.
Seriously, I don't know where the time went. You have a contagious, vivacious energy that you kind of just draw the people on the other side towards you, and I think that involvement that you bring in is really the essence of why you're able to do what you're able to do and increase your clan and your community. So kudos to you for that, and thank you
Thank you.
very much for having me at this forum. It's been one pleasurable hour and a half that I've spent this morning, and I think I'm all pepped up for the rest of the day.
Nice.
So
Nice.
if anybody has made my day today, it's you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for that.
So thank you so much for that, and I really think this is a phenomenal effort that you're doing. Keep at it, and I really hope you reach out to a wider amount of audience universally. And there is no length, breadth, or width to this. It's just open and
That's
out,
right.
and the universe is available to you. So good luck
Yeah.
to you, and
Thank you so
thank you
much.
very much for having me here.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Lalita. Like I said, when I set out on this journey 2 years ago, in terms of, as you said in your own words, about putting the message out there and being not different for the sake of being different, because you just feel drawn to it.
Hmm.
Uh, there's no way I could have ever imagined that, little now, a little more than 2 years later, here we are, having this conversation as one of the outcomes of really showing up to do the work.
Uh-huh.
So thank you for reminding me that this is not just about me, or not just about, oh, you must create content, but there's so much of good that comes from it. Sitting here with you like this is just it's been coming to me in waves from you, Lalita. So thank you so much for acknowledging that and for seeing that. And so for me, it's like this is an opportunity for me to acknowledge you for seeing that and saying, hey, Rahul, I see you. Right. So thank you so much for that. And I'm sure, as I said before, we will definitely, in even in this forum, we will definitely, connect again. And I'm curious and keen on what is, part two, or season two of our chat here going to be, because there'll be so much more of things that
Sure.
have shifted. So I truly, truly, truly wish you all the very best in all the amazing work that you're doing, and more projects that come to you, and the digital clones on so many levels that get to go out into the universe and make a difference. So thank you so much, and wish you all the best. And of course, for those of you who are watching this, if you reach this far, you know that you truly are special. This is just the beginning. We keep reaching out to truly amazing people whose stories I know are and will inspire you for time to come. So thank you for reaching this point. And as I always say, if there's any way in which we can help you, that's the reason why you have all the links of each of our guests who come. Even if there's one thing that connected about what Lalita said, please do reach out and connect with her. And I know this is how goodness spreads. So wish you all the best. And having said all of that, of course, remember to live with purpose. Keep not only finding your purpose, but remember to keep living your purpose. God bless. And of course, see you in the next one. Take care.
Thank you.
So we will give it a moment. Let me just double check on YouTube. There we go.